All right, hello everyone. This is Megan Gieseker from ALA's Public Programs Office. Welcome to today's webinar, a step-by-step guide to hybrid programming. Next slide, please. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with funding provided by the National Endowment for the Humanities as part of the American Rescue Plan Humanities Organizations Grant. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this webinar do not necessarily represent those of the NEH or ALA. Next slide, please. A couple of notes about our virtual classroom. Only our presenters have microphone access during the presentation. We will be disabling the chat during the presentation and reopening it during the Q&A discussion. Please save your questions and comments for the end. If you have any technical issues, please use the Q&A window to communicate with ALA staff. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers for this afternoon. Jonna Gifford is the Chief of Adult Library Services at the Boston Public Library, where she has worked since 2012. She manages several dynamic teams at the BPL, including community learning, adult programs, the Kirstein Business Library and Innovation Center, and the Social Work Peer Navigator Program. Jonna has a BA in Politics and Religion from Mount Holyoke College, an MA in Gender and Cultural Studies, and an MS-LIS from Simmons University. Kristen Motti is an Adult Programs Librarian at the Central Library of the Boston Public Library, a role she has been in since 2019, beginning just 8 months before the programming world changed forever. Before taking the leap to a large urban public library system, Kristen served for over 20 years in a variety of reference and instruction and administrative roles in small academic libraries. Kristen has a BA in Literature from SUNY Purchase and an MS-LIS from Simmons. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Jonna and Kristen.
Thank you, Megan. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonna Gifford, and it's a pleasure to be talking with you today about hybrid programming at Boston Public Library, located in Boston, Massachusetts. We are an urban library system consisting of one large central library and 25 branch libraries spread across Boston's diverse neighborhoods. We employ between 400 and 500 staff members and present more than 4,500 programs per year system-wide. Many different staff participate in program creation, from story times by our children's librarians at our branch libraries, to our Concerts in the Courtyard series this summer at the Central Library, to our Local and Family History series produced by our Research Services team, to name but a few. We're very fortunate at BPL to have a skilled events team that coordinate all of our room bookings and room setups with our facility staff. We also have a very dedicated communications team that works incredibly hard to market all of the BPL's programming throughout the year. And lastly, I really must give a shout out to the BPL Fund, the philanthropic organization that raises the money through grants and donations from nonprofit, corporate, and individuals that allows us to provide all of the programming that we offer. Next slide. BPL's adult programs team consists of one librarian for the central library programs, that's Kristen, one librarian for branch block programs, and one library assistant to handle administrative support. It is this team that manages our signature and marquee events, which are some of the programs funded by the BPL Fund. We are lucky enough to have an AV team at BPL consisting of 2 staff with expertise in sound, lighting, and video technology. The BPL shifted to all virtual programming during the first 15 months of the COVID-19 pandemic. We learned a lot of lessons and ended up with some program models that fit well with our library's staffing and capacity challenges at the time. Now over to Kristen for a closer look.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Jonna. Here we have Rab Hall, which is the Central Library's auditorium and one of the spaces we do larger programs in, including hybrid programs at the Central Library. We recognize and feel fortunate that the Boston Public Library has the team of audiovisual experts who are integral to our programs, both in a hands-on way for our larger programs and by consulting on smaller individual programs across the system. Now, after some initial bumps since returning to in-person programming, the library has equipment that works well for the current moment, and we follow a general format for flow of our larger speaker programs, which is adaptable, of course, depending on the program. Almost everything is flexible according to need, but it is helpful to have a known formula to work with, and it took us some time to get to that. From the time during the pandemic when all programming was virtual, we discovered that more of a conversation style format for programming for humanities programs, such as with an author and a moderator, for example, was preferable to most attendees, and we wanted to retain the feeling of interactivity in our hybrid programming. More recently, with collaborators who offer political science and opera-themed programming, for example, we have partnered on successful lecture-style hybrid programs, which have seemed to go well and be appealing to attendees. So there are a number of considerations when you're planning your programs in hybrid format. When you're planning that, you might want to consider who your audience is, partners, et cetera, and what the best format might be to share the program. Next slide, please. For today's discussion, Jonna and I are going to review two case examples. The first one is a marquee or signature program at the BPL Central Library, and we'll look at the upcoming program in the library's Lowell Lecture Series, which is an annual series of several talks with noted expert speakers that runs during the winter and spring of each year so far. The second case is a hybrid block program, which was selected from the BPL's annual community program partnership application process, and that traveled to several branch locations. Next slide, please. In this first case, the marquee or signature program, and in this case, it's our last Lowell lecture of this current series, and it is tonight with Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr. You can see here our BiblioCommons, which is our ILS. You can see our event listing. In the upper right corner is the in-person registration link, and down in the event description, which isn't visible on this slide, is the link to register to attend online via Zoom webinar, which is the platform we have selected to work with here at the Central Library. We do wish that there was a better way to convey both how to register both ways to patrons visually when they look at an event listing. And we do get questions because it can be a little bit confusing with the registration button for in-person at the top and the Zoom link embedded in the text of the event listing, but it does seem to work overall. So next slide, please. For the purposes of today's discussion, you have already started your in-person program planning, and it is time to add in the hybrid elements. Here you can see Amanda from the BPL's AV team sitting in one of the tables in the Abbey room, which is where we've hosted this year's Lowell Lecture Series. The goal is to make the smaller in-person audiences feel more comfortable and the conversation style programs in this series more intimate. You can see that in addition to our regular room setup, there is an extra table for equipment, which Amanda is sitting at. And there are a couple of screens and there's a laptop there. You can also see lighting and cameras stationed throughout the front of the room. We don't see the whole room, but there are some cameras there in the back as well. To the left of Amanda is a laptop, which has a Zoom panelist window opened and a microphone with microphone and camera turned off. And there is also a handheld microphone next to the laptop, and that is for the Q&A. The staff member on the production team for this program sits here and interacts with the online audience, often sharing information in the chat and collecting questions via the Q&A button. And that would be the program staff person who would be sitting there with Amanda to interact with those on Zoom and at the appropriate time share questions that come in through the Q&A, which is how the process that we have elected to do the Q&A process. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before we get to this point though, How does everyone on the production team for the program know the framework and timeline of the program? Earlier in the planning process, we drafted a run of show or an outline or a rundown, however you want to call it. It is an outline of the entire process, and you may already be doing this for your in-person programs. In this hybrid format landscape that we're in, this has been reviewed by the team for the program and also by the speaker or presenter or their team. So everyone has had input into this and is aware of how the flow is going to go for the evening or afternoon or whatever time your event is at, whatever time your program is at. We have found that it's crucially important to have some kind of outline like this for all programs, but also for hybrid in particular. And in this example, our speaker this evening doesn't have slides or media to share with the audience, but if he did, we could note that here. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before beginning your hybrid program, you may want to create a checklist of steps needed to get your program off the ground. This may be particularly helpful with the additional virtual elements that you'll be adding to your existing planning for in-person programs. On this side, we have some ideas for what to consider in preparation for the virtual elements as you are planning your hybrid program. So you're going to plan your program, a hybrid program, just like you would in person. You'll go through those steps, but then you'll have additional considerations for the hybrid that you'll be sort of overlaying on top of your in-person program. Next slide, please. Thanks. So the program is ready to go. It's a day of, it's time to start. The introducer or moderator welcomes both the in-person and online audiences and shares how everyone in attendance can interact, particularly during the Q&A period. Whether that is speaking into the microphone when it is passed around to the in-person audience so that people online can hear, or it is typing questions into the Q&A or chat or raised hand, whatever process you decide on. It is really important to convey that to both audiences so that they understand how that process will go. The staff person on Zoom can add a variety of links into the chat for the online audience as well, such as links to speaker information, how to buy the book and where to find it in the library's collection if that's relevant. Also, article and website links. So you may want to think about sharing those with the online audiences. And a question we're still working with is how do you then also share that with the people who attend in person? And we're still trying to figure that out. At the end of the main program, and as noted on the run of show, which we saw a few slides back, the tech staff person will close the webinar at that point. So the hybrid part, the virtual part has concluded at this point. And then you can go on with whatever, whether it's a meet and greet, it's a tea, it's a book signing. If you have any other activities, those won't be a part of your online program. And an important tool that we've used a lot more since the pandemic are surveys. At the end of many programs now, and particularly those that we offer in hybrid format, we survey both in-person and online audiences, which gives us, of course, a better understanding of who our attendees are, and also what they liked about the program and what we might need to work on for the future. Jana, can you tell us about hybrid programming in the branches?
Sure, Kristen, thank you. BPL's branch programs librarian, seen here, Karen Rosales, single-handedly managed a very popular series at 5 branch libraries this past spring, using mobile streaming kits that she and our AV team put together for hybrid programming. She used 2 laptops with Open Broadcaster software, OBS, installed, an iPad on a tripod, Zoom's webinar platform, and it worked like a charm. Check back to this slide in a minute if you need more details. We've added some tech tips here on this slide to give you more specifics about maximizing your audio and video. I'll let you check back on this slide as well for details. A word about OBS software. We have a children's librarian at BPL who uses OBS software for her hybrid storytime programs. She first adds a USB document camera to show the book she's reading, then adds her laptop camera so she's visible to the side of the book. She then makes a second scene of just her camera to switch to before, after, and between books. For our Lowell lectures, as Kristen mentioned, these past few months, our AV team has used 4 cameras, each with their own scene set up in OBS, and they transition between cameras by switching scenes throughout the program. Now back to Kristen to sum up for us.
Thank you, Jana. So there is a lot here, and we haven't covered everything, but hopefully we've given you some food for thought. And in conclusion, thank you. We have some thoughts to share that might be helpful, some takeaways as you think about and begin to craft your hybrid programming. So this is a time of opportunity for programming, and we are able to reach people both in person and online, which is really exciting. Experiment and create a strategy that works for your library and your community. And you don't have to go at it alone. Think about, are there other organizations in your community to partner with or on hybrid programs? Maybe a news outlet, other local cultural organizations, or other types of libraries or schools whose resources and expertise might complement your own. During the early pandemic and through the current time, the BPL has partnered with a range of organizations that fall into each of these categories. Some of our most successful virtual and hybrid programs have been in partnership with other local organizations, and the result has been and continues to be a richer range of program offerings for our existing patrons and to share the program production responsibilities with our partners. And of course, as well to expand the library's reach. So a lot of benefits there with partnering. Finally, the landscape is still evolving, so we suggest staying open and experiment, get feedback from your patrons and teams, and welcome flexibility. Thank you for your time. Megan?